9 days before Christmas, my mother texted me while I was sitting in a conference room approving a $6 million medical equipment contract and told me she had somehow forgotten to reserve my room for our family trip to Park City. I opened the family group chat and saw 12 matching luggage tags lined up beneath my parents' Christmas tree. Mom, Dad, my younger sister Lauren, her fiancé Mason, my brother Evan, his girlfriend, two cousins. Even Lauren's best friend Paige had a tag. Mine was missing. Then my mother sent a laughing emoji and wrote, "You're the resourceful one. Maybe you can find something nearby." I did not argue. I did not remind her that I had personally organized the same trip for 6 straight years. I did not tell her I could see the revision history on the shared planning sheet and that 3 weeks earlier she had deleted my name from room 214 and replaced it with Paige's. I simply typed, "Got it. Have a good Christmas." 11 months later, at Thanksgiving, my sister pushed a wedding vendor folder across my parents' table and said, "Since you ruined last Christmas over one hotel room, the least you can do is fix my wedding block." My mother nodded and said, "Family helps family, Sarah." I opened my phone, placed the screenshot showing exactly when she had removed me from the trip beside Lauren's wedding folder, and asked one question. Then why did everyone in this family help erase me? My name is Sarah Whitmore. I was 35 when that happened, and for most of my life I had been what my family called the capable daughter. That sounded flattering when I was younger. Capable meant teachers trusted me, managers promoted me, and relatives called when something needed organizing. Capable also meant nobody noticed when I was tired, because Sarah always figured things out. I grew up outside Denver, Colorado, in a comfortable 2-story house where everything looked more equal from the street than it felt inside. My father, Dennis, spent 30 years selling commercial insurance. My mother, Patricia, worked part-time at a dental office, but treated running the family as her real career. She loved traditions, photographs, matching pajamas, place cards, and anything that could be posted online beneath a caption about gratitude. My younger sister Lauren was 3 years behind me and arrived in the world with the natural confidence of someone who never had to wonder whether a room would make space for her. Evan, our younger brother, came 2 years later and became the easygoing baby everyone protected from consequences. I became the reliable one somewhere around age 10. If Lauren forgot a permission slip, Mom drove it to school. If I forgot one, Mom said natural consequences built character. If Evan lost his baseball glove, Dad bought another because boys were forgetful. If I lost anything, I was lectured about responsibility. When Lauren struggled in algebra, I tutored her 3 nights a week. When I received an academic award, Mom asked me not to make a huge thing of it, because Lauren had failed a chemistry test that morning. Nobody was openly monstrous. That would have been easier to recognize. They loved me. They simply loved me most comfortably when I was useful, quiet, and low maintenance. Every family develops a language that hides its hierarchy. Lauren was sensitive. Evan was young for his age. I was mature. Lauren needed encouragement. Evan needed patience. I did not need anything because I was so independent. When relatives visited, Mom praised me by saying, "Sarah basically raised herself." Everyone laughed as though that were proof of excellent parenting. I laughed too. At 23, I moved into procurement for a regional hospital system. The job suited me because chaos had rules there. A shipment arrived late, there was a reason. A supplier overcharged, there was a record. If 12 operating rooms needed new equipment by Monday, nobody solved the problem by telling me I was being dramatic. I became good at contracts, travel schedules, vendor relationships, and the kind of detailed planning my family had relied on long before anyone paid me for it. That was how I became the unpaid travel department for the Whitmore family. It began innocently. Dad asked me to compare flights for one Christmas trip. Mom asked me to book a rental car. Lauren asked me to find a restaurant that could accommodate her gluten-free phase. Evan forgot his lift pass and called me from the ski rental counter. By the time I was 30, Every family vacation came with a spreadsheet I built. Color-coded flight schedules, confirmation numbers, restaurant bookings, emergency contacts, grocery orders, weather forecasts, and a tab called Things Dad Will Forget. Dad thought that tab was hilarious. My family liked to joke that I could organize an evacuation from a burning building before anyone smelled smoke. What they never joked about was that nobody asked whether I wanted the job. 6 years before the Christmas that changed everything, Mom decided Park City, Utah, would become our annual holiday tradition. I traveled frequently for work and had enough hotel status to secure better group rates, early booking windows, and occasional upgrades. I found a lodge we all liked near the shuttle route. I coordinated airport pickups, rentals, dinner reservations, and ski school schedules. The first year, Mom posted 27 photographs and captioned them, "Whitmore Christmas Magic." I had taken 19 of the photographs. The second year, I spent almost 3 hours at the front desk, correcting a room assignment because Lauren insisted she could not sleep near the elevator. The third year, Evan missed his flight because he overslept, and I spent half Christmas Eve rerouting him through Salt Lake City. At dinner, Dad raised a glass and toasted Mom for keeping this crazy family together. Everyone cheered. Mom laughed and pointed at me. "Sarah handles the boring stuff." It was meant affectionately. I smiled because I had spent my whole life helping people avoid discomfort by pretending words did not hurt. By the 6th year, I had stopped expecting thanks. What I did expect was basic inclusion. That particular December, I had been working brutal hours because our hospital network was replacing imaging equipment at 3 facilities before year-end. Mom knew I was exhausted. She also knew I had declined a promotion in Seattle that summer because Dad had undergone knee surgery, and she kept saying she did not know how she would manage appointments, groceries, and insurance paperwork without me nearby. I told my director I was not ready to relocate. Mom called me her lifesaver. 4 months later, she removed me from Christmas. The first message arrived at 3:17 on a Tuesday afternoon. "Honey, I messed up. Then, I thought I had your room, but apparently I didn't finalize it, and now the lodge is completely sold out." I stared at my phone. My first instinct was not suspicion, it was problem solving. I opened the lodge website, searched nearby hotels, checked cancellation lists, and pulled up our shared trip spreadsheet. That was when I noticed room 214. I had reserved it months earlier under my own name. The spreadsheet now showed Paige Monroe, Lauren's best friend and freelance photographer. Because I had created the document, I could see the edit history. December 1, 2, 14 p.m. Patricia Whitmore removed Sarah Whitmore. December 1, 2, 17 p.m. Patricia Whitmore added Paige Monroe. Lauren had commented beneath the change, "Perfect. She can shoot content all week." I sat very still. My room had not disappeared. My mother had traded it. I scrolled further. At 2:21, Evan had added a thumbs-up reaction. Dad had viewed the document that evening. Nobody had asked me. Nobody had warned me. For 9 days, they let me believe I was going. Then Mom created an imaginary booking error, because telling me the truth would have required admitting that Lauren's social media photographs mattered more than my place at Christmas. I opened the group chat. Lauren had just posted a picture of matching white scarves and luggage tags by Mom's fireplace. Each tag had a name in gold vinyl. Paige's was beside Lauren's. There was no Sarah. Mom wrote, "Ready for our favorite week of the year." Then, apparently remembering I existed, she added, "Sarah, we'll bring you something cute." I could have confronted them immediately. Old Sarah would have. Not loudly. Efficiently. I would have found a nearby hotel, rented a car, spent twice what I planned, and arrived smiling so nobody had to deal with guilt. I would have fixed their lie for them. Instead, I looked at the Seattle promotion email still sitting in my archived work folder. My director had told me the position would remain open until January because they had not found the right person. I called her. "Is Seattle still available?" She paused. "Are you serious?" "Yes." Then yes. I accepted before fear could turn me useful again. I texted Mom, Got it. Have a good Christmas, she replied almost instantly. Please don't make this a thing. I'm not. You sound angry. I said have a good Christmas. Sarah, you know how impossible these trips are to organize. I stared at that sentence until I laughed. I knew exactly how difficult they were to organize because I had organized them. I did not tell her about Seattle. Not yet. I finished the work week, spent Saturday packing, and told my landlord I would not renew my lease. I scheduled movers for January and booked myself 4 quiet nights in Santa Fe over Christmas. I wanted somewhere none of my family had chosen for me. They left for Park City on December 22nd. Mom posted from the airport. Whole family finally together. The photograph showed everyone beneath a giant wreath. Paige stood exactly where I usually stood, between Lauren and Evan. I looked at the empty space that was not empty, and felt grief arrive cleanly for the first time. I had spent years insisting I did not care about attention. That was not true. I did not need to be the center. I needed to know my absence would be noticed before it became useful. Christmas morning, Mom texted me a photograph of a white scarf folded on a hotel bed. Saved one for you. I replied. You can return it. Why are you acting like this? Because you gave away my room. 3 dots appeared immediately, then disappeared, then reappeared. What are you talking about? I created the planning sheet, Mom. I can see edit history. Nothing for 9 minutes. Then, Lauren's photographer needed to be on site for a project, and you're always flexible. I knew you would understand. There it was. Not sorry. Flexible. The compliment that had excused a lifetime of making me absorb the inconvenience. I wrote, I understand perfectly. She called 6 times. I turned the phone off and walked through Santa Fe in cold sunlight, bought myself lunch, and did not solve anything. Seattle began 3 weeks later. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Queen Anne with a view of a brick wall and a sliver of Puget Sound if I leaned far enough over the balcony. The promotion made me regional director of supplier operations for a healthcare equipment company. I managed 12 people and more responsibility than I had ever carried professionally. The first month was miserable. I knew nobody outside work. Rain seemed to begin before breakfast and end sometime after dark. I bought groceries for one and cried in the cereal aisle because Mom always called on Sundays to ask what she should cook for family dinner. Then Sunday arrived and she did call, not to ask whether Seattle was lonely, but because she could not access the shared airline account. The password isn't working. I changed my work email. Can you reset it? No, make your own account. Sarah, seriously? Yes. Evan texted 3 days later, asking where I had stored the warranty information for the skis I bought him. Lauren asked whether I still had the master birthday spreadsheet because she had forgotten our aunt's birthday. Dad emailed asking how to renew the roadside assistance plan I had set up years earlier. Each request was tiny. Together they showed me the shape of my old role. They did not know how my apartment looked. They did not know my new title. They did not know whether I had made friends. They knew which system stopped working. I answered only what involved my name or financial liability. Everything else received some version of, "You'll need to handle that." Mom called that passive-aggressive. I called it retirement from unpaid family administration. Work was not instantly easier just because I had moved. 3 months in, I made a costly mistake during a negotiation with a surgical equipment supplier. I pushed too aggressively on delivery penalties without understanding that one of their manufacturing lines was already constrained by a component shortage. They walked away from the proposed renewal, and my team had to scramble for a temporary alternative. Nobody died. No hospital closed. But I felt humiliated. That evening, I sat in my apartment, convinced Mom had been right about something she had never actually said. I was good at details, not leadership. My instinct was to call Dad because he had always been kinder than Mom when I failed. Then I remembered he had viewed the Park City spreadsheet and said nothing. Instead, I called Priya Shah, one of my managers. I told her I had mishandled the negotiation. She said, "Yes, you did." I laughed because the honesty startled me. Then she added, So let's fix the process. No character judgment, no family mythology. We reviewed what I missed. I apologized to the supplier, not theatrically, but specifically. The contract was repaired 6 weeks later under better terms for both sides. That experience changed me more than the promotion. I learned that competent people can fail without becoming failures. In my family, mistakes were assigned according to hierarchy. Lauren's mistakes needed protection. Mine proved I should have known better. In Seattle, I discovered adults could simply own errors and continue. Priya became a friend. So did my upstairs neighbor, Marlene, a 70-year-old retired librarian who invited me to Thanksgiving planning meetings in July, because apparently some people are born ready for casseroles. By summer, I had a life that did not feel temporary. I joined a Saturday hiking group. I found a coffee shop where the owner knew my order. I stopped checking the family group chat daily. Then Lauren got engaged. Mason proposed in Napa during a weekend Mom described online as our family fairy tale, though only Mom and Dad had joined them. Lauren called me personally for the first time in 6 months. I answered because some hopeful part of me still existed. I'm engaged. I saw. Congratulations, thank you. Pause. We're looking at a vineyard outside Sonoma. I smiled, despite myself. That sounds beautiful. It is, but the hotel block is a nightmare. And you negotiate this stuff all day. There it was within 40 seconds. Not I miss you. Not how is Seattle. Hotel block. Hire a planner. We have one. But she's not aggressive enough. Then hire another one. Sarah. Lauren. She laughed like I was joking. Come on, you always handle travel. I don't anymore. Her voice cooled. Are you seriously still punishing everyone over Park City? I am not punishing anyone. I stopped doing unpaid work. For your sister's wedding? Especially for something as important as your wedding, you should hire someone whose job it is. You know Mom feels terrible. Has she apologized? Silence. She said she handled it badly. That is not the same sentence. Lauren sighed. This is exhausting. Then we agree. She hung up. An hour later, Mom called and accused me of weaponizing competence. I almost admired the phrase. You are good at this, Sarah. Why wouldn't you help your sister? Because being good at something does not make me obligated to do it for free. Nobody said free. We would take you to dinner. I laughed. Hire a wedding coordinator. You are becoming very cold. No, Mom. I am becoming unavailable for certain jobs. She said I was tearing the family apart over one holiday. I asked whether she had told Dad and Evan she intentionally replaced me. Everyone already knows the general story. General story. Another phrase designed to blur responsibility. I stopped engaging. The wedding planning continued without me. Lauren sent occasional messages asking questions disguised as conversation. Do you know whether hotels usually release unused rooms 60 days out? Would you trust a photographer asking 50% up front? Do airlines offer group contracts for 40 people? I answered none. She eventually hired a full-service planner. The wedding survived. That mattered because I did not want my boundary to become a revenge fantasy where everybody's life collapsed without me. They were capable adults. They simply preferred when I carried the boring weight. Thanksgiving that year became the confrontation. Dad called in October and asked whether I would come home. Your mother wants one normal holiday. I said, was last Christmas normal? He sighed. Sarah, did you know she gave my room to Paige? Long pause. I saw the spreadsheet later. Before the trip? Yes. Why didn't you say anything? Your mother said you had agreed. And you never asked me. No. His honesty hurt. Why? Because I did not want another argument in the house. So you let me be the person outside the house. He had no answer. I nearly declined Thanksgiving. Then Marlene said something that changed my mind. If you stay away because you want peace, stay away. If you stay away because you are afraid they will make you doubt yourself, go and meet the version of you who no longer needs their agreement. I flew to Denver Wednesday evening and stayed in a hotel. Mom was offended. I would not sleep in my old bedroom, which had become her craft room anyway. Thanksgiving dinner looked exactly like childhood. The same china, Dad carving turkey, Lauren correcting Mom's table placement, Evan arriving 20 minutes late and being greeted like a celebrity. Mason was kind to me. Evan's girlfriend was new, and clearly knew only the sanitized version of the family conflict. Dinner remained civil until dessert. Then Lauren placed a thick ivory folder beside my plate. I need 10 minutes. I looked at the label. Lauren and Mason Sonoma Logistics. No, you have not even opened it. I know what it is, Mom said. Sarah, please. We said today was about rebuilding. Then why is there a work folder beside my pie? Lauren's face tightened. Our room block fell apart. The hotel overcommitted during a conference weekend. We need someone who actually understands contracts to get them to honor equivalent rooms. Your planner can handle it. She is trying. Then let her. Mom leaned toward me. Your sister's wedding is 6 weeks away. Yes, can you not put hurt feelings aside for one afternoon? I stared at her. Whose hurt feelings? You know what I mean. No, say it, Dad whispered. Patricia. Mom ignored him. This entire year has been about you proving a point because I made one booking mistake. I took out my phone. It wasn't a booking mistake. Lauren groaned. Oh my God, Sarah. I opened the screenshot I had saved the previous December and placed the phone beside the wedding folder. December 1, 2, 14 p.m. Patricia Whitmore removed Sarah Whitmore from room 214. December 1, 2, 17 p.m. Patricia Whitmore added Paige Monroe. Lauren's comment beneath it. Perfect. She can shoot content all week. Evan's thumbs up reaction sat under the comment. Mom's face went red. Mason picked up the phone and read it. Evan looked down. His girlfriend whispered, You all knew? Nobody answered. I looked at Lauren. Did you ask Mom to give Paige my room? Lauren crossed her arms. There were no other rooms, and Paige's photography was part of a paid campaign. You work constantly. We thought you might not even come. I had submitted vacation days in August. I forgot. Mom didn't. Patricia said, You are making this sound calculated. You opened the room list, clicked my name, deleted it, typed another person's name, and then waited 3 weeks before telling me the hotel forgot. Which part was accidental? I was trying to avoid hurting you. By lying? By avoiding conflict. No. You were avoiding accountability. Evan finally said. Sarah, I am sorry. I turned to him. What did you think the thumbs up meant? He looked ashamed. I thought you would figure out another hotel. Exactly. My voice did not rise. That is the whole family system in one sentence. Sarah will figure something out. Sarah will take the smaller room. Sarah will fix the flights. Sarah will remember birthdays. Sarah will help Dad with insurance. Sarah will solve the wedding. Sarah will get over being excluded. Nobody ever had to ask what it cost because I always made the cost disappear. Mom started crying. We love you. I know you do. That surprised everyone, including me. That is what made it so confusing. You love me. You just also built a family where my usefulness mattered more than my inclusion. Lauren said. That is ridiculous. Is it? I pointed toward the folder. You have barely spoken to me all year, except when you need travel help. I invited you to the wedding. As a guest. Her eyes narrowed. What is wrong with that? Nothing. I am happy to be a guest. Guests do not renegotiate hotel contracts. Mason looked away because he almost smiled. Lauren noticed. Are you seriously taking her side? Mason said, I think she has a point about the contract. This is my family. Exactly. Mom said, Sarah, just help once, and then we can start fresh. That would not be starting fresh. That would be restoring the old arrangement. Dad put down his fork. She is right. Patricia turned toward him. Dennis. He looked exhausted. We all knew she handled everything. I knew about the room before we left. I should have called her. I did not because I wanted Christmas to be easy. I looked at him. Thank you. For what? For saying what you did instead of telling me nobody meant it. Mom whispered. So everyone is against me now. I almost laughed at how quickly accountability became persecution. No one is against you. You came prepared with screenshots, because you spent a year calling it an accident. Lauren pushed back her chair. Fine, do not help with the wedding. But do not come if you are going to sit there judging everyone. The room went silent. Are you uninviting me? Mason said. Lauren. She was crying now. I want one day where nobody is analyzing every decision I make. You can have that. Sarah. No, I mean it. If my presence will make your wedding worse, I will not come. Mom said, do not be dramatic. I stood. I am agreeing with her. Lauren stared at me, probably waiting for the old pattern. I would plead, she would soften, and my gratitude would restore her control. I kissed Dad on the cheek, hugged Evan because he stood and asked, and picked up my coat. Mom followed me to the foyer. If you walk out now, you will regret this. I looked at her. I spent 35 years being afraid I would regret disappointing you. I would like to find out what happens if I disappoint you and survive. Then I left. I spent Lauren's wedding weekend on the Oregon coast with Priya, Marlene, and 2 friends from my hiking group. I did not post anything until Monday because I did not want my happiness interpreted as retaliation. Lauren's wedding was beautiful. I know because Mom posted 93 photographs. In the formal family picture, Lauren stood between Mom and Dad. Evan stood beside his girlfriend. There was an open space at one edge, where Mason's cousin had stepped away before the picture. For once, I did not imagine myself in it. Lauren sent no message. Mom emailed 3 days later. I hope proving your point was worth missing your sister's wedding. I replied. Lauren asked me not to come. I respected her request. Mom did not answer. My relationship with Evan began changing first. He called in January and did not ask for anything. We talked for 40 minutes about his job, Seattle rain, and whether Denver would ever get an affordable house again. Before hanging up, he said, I think I liked having you as the responsible one because it let me stay careless. That sounds accurate. You could be nicer. I moved to Seattle. I lost my softness in the rain. He laughed. Then he apologized specifically for the Park City spreadsheet. He said he had seen Mom replace my name and assumed I would book somewhere else because I always did. I never thought about what it meant that none of us offered our rooms. That sentence mattered. Dad came next. He visited Seattle in spring without Mom. He booked his own hotel and did not ask me to plan anything. We had dinner by the water. He admitted he had spent our entire childhood letting Patricia manage conflict because peace felt easier. Your mother worried about appearances. Lauren reacted loudly. Evan avoided responsibility. You were the child I thought could take it. I could. That does not mean you should have. It was the first time my father understood the difference. We did not become instantly close, but we began calling monthly. Mom took longer because every apology came attached to a defense. I am sorry, but you know how stressful travel planning is. I am sorry you felt replaced. I am sorry the situation became bigger than I expected. None of those sentences named the act. Then, almost 18 months after Park City, she mailed a handwritten letter. It began badly, 3 pages about how hard motherhood had been. I nearly stopped reading. On the 4th page, she finally wrote, I gave your room to Paige because Lauren's campaign seemed more urgent, and I assumed you would solve your own problem. Then I lied, because I knew saying that out loud would make me sound like the kind of mother I did not want to believe I was. I read that sentence 5 times. She continued. I called you independent when what I often meant was that I could disappoint you without immediate consequences. I am sorry. That was an apology. It did not buy access. It created possibility. I called her 2 weeks later. We spoke for 20 minutes. She asked whether I would come to Denver for Christmas. Not this year, I said. She cried quietly. Okay. No guilt. No speech about Dad's age. Just okay. That mattered. The following Christmas, the annual Park City trip did not happen. Not because I sabotaged anything. Nobody remembered the booking deadline early enough. By the time Mom called the lodge, The usual room block was gone, and holiday rates were absurd. She called me once. "Do you know anyone there who could help?" Old reflex moved through me immediately. I knew the general manager. I knew which cancellations usually appeared in November. I could have solved it. "Probably," I said, "but I am not getting involved." Long pause. "Okay." She did not call again. The family rented a large cabin outside Breckenridge instead. Evan organized it. He forgot to reserve one rental car, and everyone survived. Dad booked dinner for the wrong night, and they ate pizza. Lauren complained about the mattresses. Mom posted only 8 photographs instead of 90. The caption said, "Not perfect, still family." When I saw it, I smiled. Imperfection had finally entered the Whitmore brand. Lauren and I remained distant for almost 2 years. Then she became pregnant. I received a text. "I know we are not okay, but I wanted you to hear from me instead of Instagram. We are having a girl." I stared at it before answering. "Congratulations. I hope she is healthy and loud." Lauren replied, "Probably loud." Months later, she called. She apologized for uninviting me from the wedding and for the Park City room. Her apology was less polished than Mom's and therefore easier to believe. "I liked that you handled everything," she said. "Then I resented you because people trusted you with things they did not trust me with. Giving Paige your room felt like 1 week where I could decide something and you would just deal with it. That is not flattering." "I know. Why now?" "Because I am about to have a daughter, and I keep thinking about what would happen if I taught her that the quiet sibling is the one you can sacrifice." I did not tell her everything was forgiven. We started with occasional calls. When her daughter was born, I visited for 2 days and stayed at a hotel. Mom offered my old bedroom. I said no. Boundaries that saved you do not have to disappear just because relationships improve. Today, I still live in Seattle. I eventually left corporate procurement and joined a smaller healthcare operations firm where I have more control over my time. Priya is now one of my closest friends. Marlene still invites me to Thanksgiving 6 months early and considers my inability to make pie a moral defect. Dad knows his own airline password. Evan organizes family birthdays with moderate incompetence. Mom asks before assuming I will handle something. Lauren and I are not the sisters who talk every day, but when we do talk, the conversation is rarely a request. That is progress. The Park City spreadsheet still exists in an archive folder. I could delete it now. I have not because I need evidence against anyone, but because it reminds me how ordinary the moment was. No screaming. No dramatic betrayal in a parking lot. My mother clicked my name, replaced it with someone else, and trusted the family system to absorb what she had done. That is how many toxic patterns survive. Not through spectacular cruelty, but through hundreds of tiny assumptions about who will tolerate less. I used to believe self-worth meant becoming so successful, so independent, and so competent that nobody could ever dismiss me again. That was just another version of earning my place. Self-worth turned out to be much quieter. It was understanding that being resourceful did not obligate me to accept disrespect. It was letting a wedding happen without rescuing it. It was allowing adults to forget passwords, miss booking windows, eat pizza when dinner reservations failed, and experience the ordinary consequences I had spent years preventing. It was realizing I could love my mother and still refuse a request. I could forgive my sister and still sleep in a hotel. I could miss my family at Christmas without returning to a role that made me disappear while standing right beside them. The hardest lesson was accepting that they had loved me all along. People want clean categories: loving family or toxic family, good parents or bad parents. Reality can be uglier, because love and selfishness can live in the same house. My mother loved me and still deleted my reservation. My sister loved me and still accepted the room. My brother loved me and still clicked a thumbs up. My father loved me and still stayed quiet, because quiet was easier than challenging his wife. Their love did not make those choices harmless. My boundaries did not make the love fake. Both were true. The difference now is that I no longer accept affection as payment for disrespect. If you have ever been the family fixer, the one who remembers birthdays, books, flights, solves emergencies, keeps passwords, carries everyone's little details. Hear this clearly. Being useful is not the same thing as belonging. You should not have to disappear before people notice the space you occupied. And if they notice your absence only when something stops working, you are allowed to let it stay broken long enough for them to learn how to fix it themselves. So tell me honestly, if your family deliberately gave away your Christmas room, lied that you had simply been forgotten, then expected you to keep planning their trips and rescue your sister's wedding as if nothing happened, would a real apology eventually be enough for you to rebuild those relationships, or would being erased once permanently change how much access they were allowed to have to you?